on week 3 of our 10-week course. The +4 at the end is the 4 weeks at the end to give students the time to work on their projects. So we're going to have a class in about 2 weeks, week 5, where we're going to talk about how to choose a research topic, what ideas and themes to think about, and you'll have the next 5 weeks in the course to start thinking about ideas, but you do not have to actually work on the project until after all the classwork is completed. There's 4 weeks for that, with office hours still and time to support. So just clarifying there. Again, we have office hours, which in my opinion is the weekly insights forum. I probably should add there, I think it's, I can't remember if it's 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. AST. So I'll double check and I will fix that in the guide. So it is at 10 a.m. AST. I'm 90% sure. Okay, so we have that weekly, and it's in the NCR thread. So again, on topic 3, what are we hoping to learn? We're hoping to acquire hands-on experience with data visualization with tools like Python and GPT-4, and learn how to transform blockchain data for specific use cases. That's what we're going to be working on today. I know not everyone has GPT-4, but everyone can have Python, and everyone can log in and get GPT-3. So I'll just kind of show some research on the topic. I'll share some ideas of how one can think about using Python. And then again, I'll share some ideas of how you can think about using AI tools. And then next week, we'll go through some more specific AI processes. Okay, so specifically for this class, and I'm going to share this again in case anyone has misplaced it. This is the link for today's lesson plan, and I'll kind of put it to the view mode so it's a bit easier to read through. So I'll be the lead facilitator, and there's no guest lecturer today. We are at 10 a.m. AST. We're going to be going for about an hour, 11 minutes in. And just to be clear, so if you're in the right place today, if you are an enthusiast keen on enhancing your blockchain data skills, if you're a researcher, if you're a data analyst, computer science student, or just a NEAR community member, and so everyone with a NEAR account is a NEAR community member, and if you're seeking more technical knowledge, then this is probably the place for you. The learning objective for this specific class, I've already kind of went through it, but again, it's to familiarize participants with data transformation and you're seeing that this is about half, 53% percentile for medical knowledge, for example, whereas GPT-4, knows more than, 3/4 of the population. Which can be a bit helpful in evaluating AI from a non-technical standpoint, like looking at these graphs and numbers. I am going to come back to this article. And this is a guide. Again, not going to go through the full guide. I'm hoping that I'm saying this constantly because I don't want people to think that we're going to be here opening up our, terminals and coding editors, coding live in these classes. If anyone does have any questions about anything we talk about in this class, you can always ask questions. You can come back on Friday in the Insights Forum and be like, hey, Chloe, I tried using Python to load something. Here's my code. It didn't work. And I can definitely try and do a code review with you. The purpose of this class, though, is to give you ideas of places to start and how to work through some of this data. So this is just a guide that someone produced. I just found it online. I thought it was pretty kind of helpful. Talking about data visualization and how to analyze things in Python. So this is not with AI, not with GPT. Let's assume you were a developer and wanted to try and do things. So this is the data. So actually, let's go before the data. So someone saw a sign at the gym. So this is where their research started from. They saw a sign at the gym that said, children are getting fatter every decade, right? I'm sure many people have seen marketing campaigns like this, where there's a random stat or there's a random comment made, and you're wondering, is it actually true? Is there data backing that up? Or is that someone's opinion and just a marketing slogan? So this person wanted to investigate. They didn't think it was actually true, and so they wanted to investigate that, are children actually getting fatter every decade? Okay, so what did they do? They took data from data.gov.uk. And so again, many times when you're working with data, local governments have a lot of public data you can look through. So you do not have to go do your own research to find the data, data collection. You can use data from local governing bodies, from, again, on the blockchain, all data or most data is public. And so you can use that data to conduct your research on. So they're using the 2014 file. So again, this is pretty old information, old data. But again, this is just a demo for how you can do things. And they open it in the spreadsheet tool of your choice. So the first step here is using a spreadsheet tool like Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, and just opening the data so you can look at it. Wonderful. This is what the data look like. You can see, I might even try and zoom in a bit more. You can see there's 2002 to 3, the total, the ages of them, and then you can see 2020, 2012, 13. So data is already organized by somebody else, and there's some information and notes at the bottom. Now, before we jump in, and this is using Pandas. Pandas is a library in Python to help with data visualization and analysis. And so, yeah. But the question first, a lot of people open all of these manually, click them all, and we can start reviewing all the data manually. Now, obviously, this is already quite tedious. We're already doing lots of clicks, and we're supposed to be able to, step one from the guide before was to get this data into an Excel sheet. So even that by hand, just to explain, would take quite a while. The 3 ways you would do this is 1, manually, right? By copying the account name, moving it to Excel. Copying Are You Human, moving it to Excel. Copying the Dream Collab, moving it to Excel. And hopefully it's very clear how that would work. It will be pretty tedious, and you only have 22 results. It would take you quite a while. Now, with programming, someone actually already programmed this, so you can export the CSV file. This is actually not working. So when I click this, it actually opens a blank page. So I had to spend quite a while playing around with GPT-4 actually to get the data correct. And I do have the data here now, so I will send that into the chat so other people can see the data. Let me also, open it. We can see what I'm talking about. I'm having struggles. Open. Okay, doesn't want to open for me at the moment. We'll try one more time and then give up. Folder. Okay. So it's opening old stuff. Okay, I'll try and open it in a second. The data is shared. Other people should be able to open it pretty easily. There we go. Sorry, it's having a hard time. Dropped my laptop recently and it just wants to be difficult. Cancel. Okay, cancel. Cancel. Sorry, I tried a bunch of times and it worked all the time. It just wasn't showing me in the UI. Again, kind of small. Let's see if it lets me easily zoom in, view. That's not. Okay, so it's just being difficult, this UI that I'm using. So I'll do it manually. Anyways, I have the Excel sheet here. That was the main point of this, is that I did some work. It took me quite a while. I used AI for this personally. And I was able to then, because there were certain areas where it wasn't incorrectly, and you can still see my Dream Web3 collab, some of this data still would need to be cleaned up. So the point is to show the first step of working with this data is actually to clean up the data, right? So I cleaned up most of it, but if we look through it, we could probably still find areas we'd want to clean up. So for example, some areas were empty for certain questions. So cleaning up the data just meant ensuring that the data was pushed over or moved over efficiently, right? So here, to have in-depth knowledge about technology and contribute to the community is probably, again, one that I actually missed and put in the wrong spots. I knew there was one that I had at least up, so I kind of kept it there just to show how that would work. And the result, obviously, the simplest way is just to move it over manually. But again, potentially, if you have GPT-4, you could try and work out how that might be changed with either Python or with AI. So there's the data. I just wanted to show what it might look like so that everyone could see. And it's all already in a sheet format. Whatever sheet format that works for you, doesn't really matter too much. Okay. Not sure why it closed. Oh, that's why. So yeah, the export to CSV is not working. Another area where you could use the export to CSV though, and this is not a mandatory homework assignment, but I think this is a fun one. You can go to your own Near account on NearBlocks, and you can export the CSV file here for your past transactions. So again, we will go through that quickly. For the month of March, we're going to do the last 5,000 transactions. I think these are boats. Honestly, I might be a robot because download. Well, this should give us a more straightforward overview of all of our transactions. And so we'll go through both of these using AI in a bit. So Chloe.near transactions, to make sure it's saved in the right, okay, it's gonna be a bit. So here you go, these are all my transactions. And if we wanna zoom in a little bit so we can see them, you have the transaction hash, you have the type. So what you're doing, were you acting a proposal, transferring, donating, the fees for those transactions, and who you're interacted with. The smart contracts, there's a bunch more information, honestly. The block height, the time. So we'll go through that as well in a bit. So with these answers and responses, I'm gonna open them up again just so it's a bit clearer. All of these are different. So if I asked, what's your favorite non-technical hobby? It wasn't like there was responses that said, okay, do you like physical activity or leisure, right? Where everyone could pick the same responses. So when it comes to analyzing this data now, it becomes relatively important to try and figure out themes among the data so that you can visualize something efficient. So again, I just have a quick example. Again, the code is here. I'm not going to go into too much detail of what's happening, but with GPT, again, we see PLT, right? We talked about that earlier. We know this is in Python because of the topic threats here. And so again, in the guide, it was the exact same format, right? So when you're using GPT, you should be able to understand what's happening here as well. We're using Python, and you can copy this code to your own code editor and make alterations, right? So what's happening is that it's using PD, right? Pandas. We're not importing because it's built in now, right? So hopefully that's clear. And so this is like a data frame. DF just means the data that we're working with. It's an Excel sheet. Right. So basically Pandas. We're not importing because it's built in now, right? So hopefully that's clear. And so this is like a data frame. DF just means the data that we're working with. It's an Excel sheet. So basically it's saying the data frame, the Excel sheet, to get it, for the variable, we're going to use Pandas, a library in Python. We talked about this already. And we're going to use the read CSV function. So Pandas already has the capability to read CSV files, and we're just going to share the file with GPT-4. So we did this by just going to our file system and adding the file to GPT-4. Now it's setting a theme, right? So this is just using, Seaborn. Okay, like this honestly is just a UX, a UI thing. So you can skip it. It's just for making it look pretty. It's recategorizing things. So again, I worked with GPT before this to kind of create these. So base data, it came up with the tag high profile individuals. I did not come up with the tag, but these are the names that came up the most in the data. So again, you can visually analyze the data and see, okay, Dream Web3 collab, we have Ilya, we have Alex, we have a Twitter account, we have different names mentioned. But Ilya and Alex mentioned most, but you can see in the plot where these accounts are mentioned. So high profile individuals, I think Chloe should actually be removed probably based on and that's where you have to work with your data. But that is 8 total. What's interesting, I think, just from the visualization is without having to go through all of the data, you can see that actually most people had a variety of responses. Most people didn't have, it seems, a high profile individual to say they want to work with right away. But when they were, more analysis would get you to, okay, well, maybe I want to do a deeper analysis on high profile individuals and see, okay, well, who are they actually speaking about? The other one that I found to be interesting, and we'll go through this together in a second, is how the hobbies and categories were analyzed by GPT-4. Again, this is all AI analysis with some work done to it, but we're going to realize in a bit that as you try and work with raw data, it becomes really important what you're asking. And so we're going to ask questions as a class. So get your questions ready, and I'll share it in a second. So for here, we can see that relaxation and leisure activities in general, were 6 users kind of chose those types of activities. But I would say that arts and creativity would probably be in the same category. So this is where in your code, where we see relaxation and leisure, you could actually copy and paste with this and then alter the responses. So, movie and movies was relaxation and leisure, but making art and painting and sculpting were in arts and creativity. In my opinion, you could actually maybe make one category, copy and paste the information from here and move it down here. You can use that in Python, or you can use that directly in GPT and say, hey, actually, for the hobby categories, you generated this code, but I want to alter the code and have you generate this way. So you can do programming, arguably, directly, for data especially, directly in the GPT-4 UI, which is pretty cool. So other categories were at a 5, outdoor activities were at a 5, and then physical activity was at a 4. Again, this is where in the data, physical activity like working out, baking, I'm not sure it counts as physical. Maybe it does, swimming, taking long walks. A lot of that could probably be in the outdoor activities section, right? You could probably have, a physical and outdoor activities section together and mix those together as well. And that's, in my opinion, where GPT-4 can be helpful because it can give you general ideas, but it is always important to look back at where the ideas are coming from. Trusting any type of AI to give the correct answers right away is probably not very useful. But again, AI can be a good use for data transformation, data analysis to help you with your visualizations. I did also share the matplotlib library if people wanted to look at it. I do not think many people will be that interested, but this is kind of what Python is using as well, the .lib when we're looking. So that's where, the PLT, is matplotlib, the actual plotting of the graphs. Pandas is for reading the Excel files and sending them appropriately. So hopefully that's clear. Hopefully we're seeing a bit about how GPT-4 uses Python in these libraries, and you can do everything you see here outside of GPT-4. So if you have GPT-3, you can get similar code and run it in your own terminal. So in the activities, I do kind of share a very, very basic output of this. to try and explain it even more simply for those that might still be a bit confused. So we'll go over this really shortly, and then we're going to kind of do some hands-on fun with GPT-4 and some data. So we're importing Pandas as PD. We have a data frame, which is using Pandas and the Excel. So instead of using a link to something, you literally could import data directly into the data frame. So if you're confused about what's actually being imported in this step here, right? This time it was a CSV file that was being uploaded because it pd.read CSV, but you don't have to do any function. You can just, this is the data frame and put it there. Again, this is how you'd read a CSV file. It's already here.